प्रसाद, मला ग्रीन सिग्नल द्या कधी सुरू करायचं.
हो मॅम. येस मॅम.
हा.
येस. गुड इव्हनिंग.
गुड इव्हनिंग. गुड इव्हनिंग. Can I start?
Yes ma'am. You can.
Yeah. Okay. In the last lecture, we had seen about the evaluated price. Okay, just 1 second. So we had seen about the evaluated price, where the price is not only what you're paying for the product, but also has got, lot of things regarding transportation. It has got regarding, who will be the owner during the transportation. It is, the credit facility given. All these things are calculated for the evaluated price. Then we had seen what is the total offering, which is also a part and parcel of the evaluated price. That is not only the product, not only the service, the image, the availability, the quantity, the evaluated price, all this will come together into the total offering, right? With this, we'll start with a new topic called as the value chain. Now, the value chain is the chain of activities that create something of value for targeted customers, right? So when do you create a value for the customer, right? So the value for the customer starts from not only how easily you come to know about the product, right? After that, how the product is readily available. After that, how much price do you pay for the product? And after buying the product, are you satisfied with the product or not? Has the feedback been taken? Are there innovations in that product or not to fulfill your requirement? So all this gives value to the customer. So it's a chain of activities that create something of value for the targeted customers, right? Now that value chain comprises of two things: direct activities and support activities. Now, what are direct activities? It contribute directly to the offering. Support activities, it makes it possible to perform the direct activities. Now, what is direct activities? Which are directly contributing to the offering. Now, what is an offering, right? The product, the image, the availability of the product, how much quantity, and what is the evaluated price. What is the evaluated price? It has got everything to do along with the money you are going to pay from your pocket, in then plus transportation, carrying cost, financing cost, cost of failure, installation cost, flexibility to upgrade. All this is coming together to give you the evaluated price, right? So evaluated price is a combo of all many things put together so that the product is kicking and running, right? Total offering comprises of the image of the product, the service, availability of the product, the quantity, and the evaluated price. And value chain talks about how much value are you creating for the customer. How do you create a value for the customer where he is aware about the product quite easily, right? And in B2B, it is much easier because it becomes, he searches for the information, at the same time it is done through direct marketing. Plus, after understanding that the product is there in the market, how easily it is available to him, right, in the right quantity, at the right price, then the amount he has paid for the product, then it is a satisfaction level of the customer for that product, right? So when you're talking about value chain, there are two types of activities: direct activities and support activities. Now, direct activities in B2B will be, like the cost price of the product being less, or free delivery, right? Support activities will be, installation, or a know-how person waiting in your organization for some time, right, so that you gel well with that usability of the machine and everything. So all this will create a value for the customer, right? With that, we will see what all are the value chain suppliers, right? So what are the value activities which are value enabling and value creating, right? So value enabling activities include infrastructure, human resources, procurement and technology development. Now, these are all value enabling. If you have the best of the infrastructure, you have the best of the HR, you have the latest technology, you're adding value, right? So you're enabling the value through these activities. And how do you create a value? The value creation activities include inbound and outbound logistics, operations, marketing and sales, and customer service. Even your, excellent after sales service is also a value creation. Okay, excellent logistics isn't value creation, right? Your marketing and sales people who give you transparent information and make you feel comfortable also is a value creation. So this is what is value enabling, which is goes with the, infrastructure development, which goes with in-house thing, and value creating depends on the person who is executing it, right? So value enabling and value creating, right? With this, we will see what are the value chain and offerings. So when we talk about, value enabling, we have talked about infrastructure, human resource, procurement, technology development, support activities. All this add value, right? And the ones which enable the values are inbound logistics, operations, marketing, customer service, margin through the value, right? Now all this creates a offering to the customer. So how does it creates an offering to the customer? By giving the best of the product at the least of the price, or a reasonable price, the service, the image of the company of the whose product you are using, availability of the product, the right quantity, and the evaluated price. All this creates a offering for the customer, right? And the target customers perceive this offering, right? Once they perceive this offering, they consider and find out whether this deal is an excellent deal or not, right? With this, we will see major uses of B2B product. For additional production, example, components are combined into sub-assemblies and become part of the finished product. Now, there are more diversifications into B2B product, right? Now, there are certain additional productions which are components which are combined in the sub-assemblies and become part of the finished product, or they can be used in operations but are not a part of the finished product. Like, say, for example, lubricants that are used. It is not a part of the finished product, but without that, the machines will not work. Okay, the gearboxes will get stuck. So all this are used in the operations and for resale. Now, there are certain products or certain portals which are used for resale. So that will also come under B2B products. So today, what we saw right now is, we had seen in the last class what is an ISO, which helps you to get a globalized quality certification, which helps you to do business with the external, rather the whole globe, right? Evaluated price is not only the money that you're paid for the product, but it also includes transportation, carrying cost, financing cost, potential obsolescence, cost of failure, installation, flexibility to upgrade, right? Consumers have some considerations, but they're attracted to deals. That is the sales promotion part, right? So whenever we talk about total offering, it talks about product, service, image of the company, availability, quantity, and the evaluated price, right? Value is created to the customer through two methods: direct activities and support activities. Direct activities which give direct value in the sense of the cost price being less or the transportation being at your doorstep. Support activities are add-on services where you can chat even with the technician on their website. All these are add-on services which can also create value to the company, right? So this is what is the value chain. Then there are two types of value that can be created. One is value enabling, other is value creating, right? Value enabling is for the coming from the organization, where they get the latest technology, the best of the infrastructure, the best of the HR policies, right? Which creates or enables the value. And the value is created from an individual or from a department, right? From having the excellent logistics, operations, marketing and sales, and customer service, right? The same thing we have seen here, how the value is created, which gives an offering, and the target customers perceive this offering and check whether this deal is excellent or not, right? With this, we have seen other uses for B2B products. It is not only your product is a raw material for other some company, or is the finished product for some other company, right? So it can be used in operation where it is not taking part in the finished product at all, or it can be only for a resale, or it can be for additional production, which the components are combined into the sub assemblies and become part of the finished product, right? So it is a part of the process, but it is nowhere becoming a part of the finished product. Now, say for example, there is a float which is put into the machinery. So if that liquid comes still up, it gives a relay signal, right? So that is not a part of the finished product, but it is in the assembly and which is helping you for the production, right? So this is what will come under B2B. Then we will do main categories or classification of business goods and services. So there are different categories of products. First are entering goods. Okay, so what do you mean by entering goods? They become part of the finished product, cost assigned to the manufacturing process. So entering goods are the ones which become part of the finished product. So it's a raw material for the finished product, and there is a cost assigned to the manufacturing process. So this good which is coming is related to the cost which is there for the manufacturing. So it's a raw material, right? So once the cost of the raw material goes high, even your manufacturing process cost also goes high. Now there are foundation goods. Foundation goods are capital goods that typically depreciated over time, like machinery, right? So they are capital goods and capital items typically depreciated over time. Then there are facilitating products which support organizational operations, and they are handled as overhead expenses, right? So your RFID system for your uh, registering whether you enter the organization or not. All these are facilitating products. They support organizational operations, but they become your overhead cost, right? Now, other forms of entering goods are the raw material, right? That is farm products and natural products, which becomes a raw material for other industries, only processed as necessary for handling and transport. So they are in the raw form, they are only processed to that extent so that they can be handled and transport, right? So can you think of any example where the product is only processed as necessary for handling and transport? Yes, forum is open. At least let me feel there are students on the other side. There are small baby corns. There are small baby corns right, which are refrigerated, right, and that, that covers are removed. So all this is their only process as necessary for handling and transport, right? Then there are certain which require extensive processing. So they are in the rawest form, which requires extensive processing. So it's like cotton turning into a yarn and then being, sent as a raw material. So all that will come under excessive processing. Or the farm products and natural products which are transferred just the way it is, like sugarcane coming into a sugar industry, right? So all this will also become the three forms of entering goods, that is farm products and natural products, only processed as necessary for handling and transport, and which requires extensive processing, right? Now we will see in the classification of business goods and services, what are manufactured materials and parts. So any product that has undergone extensive processing prior to purchase, right? So when you say it is a manufactured material and part, it means the product has undergone extensive processing prior to purchase. So it can be like, yarn industry, where the raw material is already processed and now it has come into the dyeing industry, right? So any product that has undergone extensive processing prior to purchase are the component materials and the component parts. So the component material which require additional processing, right? So the additional processing is like, the yarn has come, now it requires dyeing or it requires cleaning, whatever be the next process, right? And the component parts generally do not require additional processing. Now, these are the parts which actually go into the process, or this becomes a part of the finished goods. So all this will come under manufactured material and parts, which is a raw material or a part of the entering goods. Then comes foundation goods. So when we are talking about foundation goods, we are talking about installations, right? And the other one is accessory equipment. So what comes under installations? Major long-term investment items like machinery, like technology, right? It comes like building, land, fixed equipment, etc. This will all come under installations. Accessory equipment, which are less expensive and short-lived, not considered part of the fixed plant, portable tools, PCs, etc. Now, accessory equipments can be you're working into safety zones and then you require that shields, or you require that, dresses which you require to work on the shop floor. So all this will come under accessory equipments, which are the foundation goods, but they do not come under the fixed plant. So this is what will come under B2B business. Then are facilitating products, right? So when it is facilitating products, the products can be in the form of actual material or it can be in the form of a service. So when it is an actual supply of material, so any supply is necessary to maintain the organization's operation. So it can be anything, right? So it can be a raw material or it can be just a coffee into the vending machine, right? It can be anything. What are the services? Which is maintenance and repair support, advisory support, logistical support. All these are the different support systems, right, which helps you to run in a B2B, which helps you for smooth running, right? So steps in the buying process. So we have already seen this. So before I start with the steps in the buying process, last lecture also I could not just brush through because I was under the impression of 8:15 to 9. And I said, okay, in the last 15 minutes, I'll explain. And the lecture got over, right? So we will go with the marketing mix, the 4 P's: product, price, place, promotion. The marketing mix, which talks about the core product, the dealing terms, when it comes to financing terms, the credit facilities, the delivery of options, which gives the total offering. Now this total offering, we are using it ahead also because it creates value, right? Then the price is the measure of value, exchange, and is determined by the markets, not by cost, right? Then we had seen how do you give an utility when it comes to place. It can be in which form do you want the product. Do you want to assemble it or you want it in the form, the way we are going to supply it? Time factor, the place factor, and the position factor, that is the ownership factor, right? So we had seen how marketing mix promotion for B2B is more on personal selling, more of a dialogue, and it is a long lasting relationship. The structure of B2B is concentrated. There are relatively few buyers giving you major of the businesses, and it is a oligopolistic competition, right? When it is B2B, the products are technically complex. It is customized to user preference. Service delivery and availability are very, very important, and they're purchased other than personal use, right? So this is the major difference between B2C and B2B, right? Then when it comes to buyer behavior, there are professionally trained purchasing personnel, functional involvement at many levels, task motivates predominant. So we have talked about how complex that process is already, right? Whenever it is a buyer seller relationship expectation in B2B, the technical expertise is an asset. Okay, there's a lot of interpersonal relationship between the buyer and the seller. There's significant personal information exchange. There's a stable long-term relationship which encourage loyalty. The different channels of B2B are, they have to be shorter and more direct. Organization involvement as part of the supply chain. B2B emphasize on personal selling dialogue, promotion, right? And seldom the B2B brands are very well known to the people, right? Price is more complex, and it is not just what you pay. There is lot of hidden prices which we have already talked, transportation, and then the credit facilities, all this comes. And then when it comes to pricing, it is done either through tendering or it is done through bidding, right? Then we have seen what is the demand. It is derived demand, inelastic, volatile, and discontinuous. There are the 4 versions of it, right? Then we had seen how the derived demand is interdependent. If the economy is rising, more people buy cars. If you're a supplier of headlamps, automatically your order increases, and vice versa. So we had seen this example also, right? And fluctuating demand is only when your product is seasonal, right? Then we have seen the concept of derived demand. So whenever you have made a forecast as per the existing orders, and then if there is a plus and minus into it, then you have to revamp your strategies for it. Then we had seen what is an ISO, how it gives you a global certificate for quality, which opens your door for and global, which opens the door for your global market. An evaluated price is a combination of transportation, carrying cost, installation cost, cost of failure, flexibility to upgrade. All this calculated together gives the evaluated price. Total offering is product, service, image, availability, quantity, etc. Value chain is derived from 2 things, which is direct activities and support activities. Value chain can be enabled as well as created, right? Then your B2B products can be for additional production or can be used in operations or for resale. There are main categories of products when it comes to entering goods, foundation goods, and facilitating goods. So in entering goods, your good can be either a part of the finished product or it can be a cost assigned to the manufacturing process. So when it comes to entering goods, we have seen 2 types of entering goods, raw material and manufactured material and parts. So when you are entering good is in a raw material, it can be in the rawest form, or it can be only processed for transportation, or it can be extensively processed and it is coming to your door, right? And entering good when it is a manufactured material where it is requiring additional processing. We have taken an example of a yarn which needs to be dyed and which needs to then become a cloth, right? Component parts which requires no processing and can be used in the part of the machinery. Then we are going to see foundation goods, which are capital goods and typically depreciated over time. So we have seen foundation goods are of 2 types, installation and accessory equipments. So installations are fixed, right? And there are large capital also. Accessory equipments will not come under the fixed plan, but they are the accessory equipments required for the running and the processing of the fixed equipment. Then we have seen the facilitating products, which are support organizational operations. handled as overhead expenses. So there are of two types, supplies and services. So any supplies necessary to maintain the organization's operation, right? Let it be raw material or let it be any other item. Services like maintenance, repair, advisory support, and the logistical support. I'll go into the steps in the buying process. We have done the roles of buying behavior. So this is more of a revision of the thing which we have done initially in the first or the second lecture. So steps in the buying process, recognition of a need, definition of the product type needed, right? This is B2B buying process. Development of detailed specification, search for qualified suppliers, acquisition and analysis of proposals. So there are tenders or there are bids or there are quotations. So you uh, investigate, or rather you find out which is the better one. Evaluation of proposals and selection of a supplier, selection of an order procedure, evaluation of the product performance. So it starts with a requirement of a new machinery. You define what is the product features, specifications you require. You find out all the information beforehand. Then you find out who are the vendors who supply these items. Then you ask them to send you a quote or a bid. Then you evaluate it. You place an order. You use the product. You use the machinery, and you evaluate that yes, this increases the production or it reduces the time, and this is useful in the long, in maybe in the shorter run. In 4-5 years, you may require to buy one more machine as your sales go high. So these are the steps in the buying process. So what are the buy phases, right? I'll repeat this again. Step 1, recognition of a need. Step 2, definition of the product type needed. Step 3, development of detailed specification. Step 4, search for qualified suppliers. Step 5, acquisition and analysis of proposals. Step 6, evaluation of proposals and selection of a supplier. Step 7, selection of an order procedure. Step 8, evaluation of product performance. Similar to B2C, but here, once you have recognized a need, okay, you define what is that need. शॉप में जाके मैं नहीं देखती मैं कौन सा टीवी खरीदूं, राइट? यहाँ पे कौन सी मशीनरी चाहिए, उसके क्या स्पेसिफिकेशंस होगा, उसका आउटपुट कितना होगा, हर चीज चेक की जाती है, उसके बारे में जानकारी निकाली जाती है, उसके रिलेटेड सप्लायर्स को ढूंढा जाता है, उनसे कोटेशन मांगा जाता है, या इफ इट इज अ पब्लिक, इट इज अ टेंडर, इफ इट इज इन अ लार्जर क्वांटिटी, राइट, उसको इवेल्युएट किया जाता है, ऑर्डर प्लेस किया जाता है, और फिर पोस्ट परचेस बिहेवियर और पोस्ट परचेस satisfaction level check किया जाता है. Now there are buy phases, right? First is a new task, which is complete buying process, requires emphasis, product definition and specifications. Now when I'm buying a product for the first time, okay, so I am doing a lot of survey, right, from the vendor to the technology to its usability to its feedback given by the people. So it's a new task, right? So it's a complete buying process which requires emphasis, product definition and specifications. When it is a modified rebuy, right, where it is emphasizes supplier search and evaluation, where I have been, using the same product or the same machinery, but there are certain modifications, so I need to rethink whether I need to upgrade or I do not need to upgrade, right? And the third is a straight rebuy, where I've been buying it, I have used it, I'm very happy, and as my orders are increasing, I need some more machinery, so I'm not even thinking about it. So emphasize need recognition and purchase. So it's just you understand the need and you purchase the product. So these are the three phases which we have already dealt in B2C also. New task, modified rebuy, straight rebuy, right? With this, we'll come to the next topic, that is vendor analysis rating. How do you rate a vendor as good, better, or best, right? Or bad, worse, or worst. So what are the parameters on it, right? So the rating form should list the most important product attributes, the most important service support attributes that you are expecting from the vendor, what services are mandate to be coming from the vendor, and what are the product features that that the vendor's product should be mandatorily be there, right? So it is the product attributes, it has the service support attributes, pricing variables, delivery variables, quality variables, सप्लायर कैपेबिलिटीज, ये सारी चीजों का मुआवजा करके ही वेंडर का एनालिसिस होता है, whether you should go for that vendor or you should not go for that vendor, right? So the most important parameters are product attributes, support attributes, pricing variables, delivery variables, quality variables, supplier capabilities, right? All this will come. The purchasing partnerships are made with vendors who provide high purchase volumes, material, components, or strategic products, right? So purchasing partnerships are made with vendors. So when you go for a vendor tie-up, what all things are taken into consideration? High purchase volumes, whether he is capable to give that. Second, the one who is giving strategic components. Information and training for effective product use. Does that vendor have people enough that they can come and train your people how to use the product? Services requiring specialized knowledge for cost reductions and or performance. Now, when you say that I'm having this process and you say that you reduce the cost, you are into this sector where you talk about making the processes better. So how will you make this process better? By reducing the cost. So you should have your own expertise people who can crack this deal. And when the material is not available anywhere, it is available with your vendor, you are very happy that your vendor is giving you the services when there is a shortage in the market, right? So purchasing partnerships are made with vendors who provide high purchase volume materials, components, or strategic products, information and training for effective product use, services requiring specialized knowledge for cost reductions and or performance, materials which is unavailable elsewhere, right? So improve performance, staying ahead of the purchasing trends, right? So how do you improve your performance? By staying ahead of the purchasing trend, by reducing your purchasing cost, by cutbacking on your employees, cut back on employees, which is going on nowadays, reduce the number of vendor transactions, okay? Either you reduce the number of vendors or you reduce the number of transactions with the vendors. How does it, put you ahead of the purchasing trend? Because when everything is set and you say, okay, in this 3 months, this is the order with this gap, right? So it's reducing your time and efforts to talk to him, place an order, because in one order itself, it has been placed and with the multiple times, right? You have built a relationship with the vendor. There is a centralized purchasing activities and you're using the best of the technology to make things more and more efficient. Now even the tracking of your goods is possible because of the RFID, right? So this is how you can use technology, right? Second point is you can outsource in-house activities like training, manufacturing, processing activity, and you can also involve your suppliers, ESI into it, where they will come and give you the training as to how it has to be done, right? And then it is cross-functional teams, which is made up of companies department, suppliers, customers. So all this, if they are there giving you feedback, helping you to be much better, it helps. Increase professionalism through certification program and establish a code of ethics. Many people have lot of events for the vendors, or they have lot of activities for the vendors, at the same time lot of training programs also for the vendors, right? So this is how it is a to and fro process which goes on from the vendors to the companies and from the companies to the vendors, depending on which is more, if it is a techno savvy product where you require to give training to the company, yes. But if it is your vendor who is doing a lot of sales for you, like it is the opposite side where he is your channel partner, right, and he's pitching for you, then you give a lot of training to him. So that is what will come under the suppliers and vendors, right? So there are certain sales survival questions. So what do you mean by a cross functional team? Okay, so all these questions I'll just put it into the slides, which is being forwarded to you, and then we will go to the successful cross-functional purchasing team depends on. So when we talk about a cross-functional team, what are the parameters that helps? Appropriate leadership, face-to-face communication, continuity, top level commitment, and embracing diversity. So this is what will help in the cross-functional purchasing teams with your vendors, right? Now, when the company is changing the focus of make or buy, what all are the things that determine and give value for? So purchasing determines who provides best value for the lowest cost, right? So you find out through your in-house parameters and your partner parameters what all will be the parameters to judge a vendor as to whether he's the most perfect person or not. So this is a chart which I'll share it with you, right? So whenever it is a make or buy decision analysis, right, what are all the parameters that will come into B2B? First is the financial risk, marketing risk, manufacturing risk, and the political risk. First, finance risk is resource allocation, investment of resources, accurate cost analysis, legal issues, right? So it is talking about when you're allocating your resources, will you get that much ROI, return on investment, right? Is the costing accurate enough? Do you really feel that because of this machinery, the time will come down, your overhead costs will come down, and due to which your productivity will increase, your sales will increase? All these things are taken into consideration. Marketing risk is how much will be the supplier dependent on factor it is, how much it is the customers, how much will this make an impact on the customer. If it is going to shoot up the sales, of course you'll go for it. What are the manufacturing risk involved into it? Reliability, expertise, equipment, patent protection. So all these factors are also taken for make or buy decision making. Political risk are the turf battles, internal strife, or it can be the management commitment, willingness to partner. All this will be the internal political factors which can make or break your buying decision, right? So there are two more risks, which is acceptable risk, which is buy the products, components, or services, which is you always have when you buy any product. Unacceptable risk is retain productions and provide services just by not taking the risk, right? So both the ways you have to take a risk to enhance your processes and make things better, right? So what are the ethical issues for buyer? The key requirement is every competitor has an equal opportunity to sell to the buyer and has an equal access to information. As a buyer, you must provide equal access to the buying opportunities and be totally responsible to your employer, right? So we have last 10 minutes. We'll quickly revise the new things that we have done, right? So we have done this revision of all this steps in the buying process. It has got 8 steps, unlike B2C, which has 6 steps, right? It's step 1, recognition of a need, definition of the product type needed, development of detailed specification, search for qualified suppliers, acquisition and analysis of proposals, evaluation of proposals and selection of a supplier, uh, selection of an order procedure, evaluation of product performance, right? Now, what are the buy phases? New task, modified rebuy, and straight rebuy.